Hi everyone, this is day 26 of the LDvid30 challenge, and that means I have one more week left to complete this challenge. So for the next 4 days, I'm going to talk about the 4 critical aspects of creating a meaningful scenario, and that includes choices, consequences, connections, and corrections. So let's begin with the first one, choices. How many times have you encountered in a training a scenario screen for which you know the answer to? I mean, you didn't have to go through all those screens of material to answer that scenario question. And if you dissect that a bit further, it comes to 2 or 3 points. Probably that answer is the longest one. It's the most well thought of, which has layers of understanding to it. And the other answers are just too simple to be considered as real life scenario outcomes. And so how do you write an effective scenario? How do you come up with distractors which actually distract the learner from the right answer? It usually begins by writing well thought of distractors. Most of the times when we are creating scenarios, we write the scenario, we know what the answer is, and we finish it first and scribble it down and just finish it. And when it comes to the distractors, you're like, okay, I might just put this over here and this over here, and okay, I have 3 choices, and let's go to the next scene. And that's where, as designers of training, we need to have more respect for the learner. The learner is not dumb. He or she is putting his or her time or effort into your training, and we need to respect that as trainers. So some of the things that we can do to write better choices is to never use always and never. I know, never use always and never, but because in real life scenarios you don't come across black and white answers to a question. Sometimes under certain circumstances one option might be good while it may not be the right one in the other. So don't use always or never, or generalize the scenario or the distractor. And then the other thing that you can do is to not give a negative tone to the distractor. Most of the times what happens is we think the right answer through beginning and end and how it's going to relate to the next scene, that we forget how the distractors should look. And most of the time they have a negative tone, or the learner can't empathize with that answer at all, and that's where you lose the cognitive relatability of the learner to that distractor that you're creating. So what can you do to create better distractors? Number one, whatever scenario you're trying to teach, have your distractors like common mistakes people do, and then a good option that people might take in that scenario, and then the best answer that's the right way to deal with the scenario. In that way you have a gradation of well thought of distractors that can help the learner relate to one or the other distractor, and not just one of them, not only the right answer but all the 3 answers. The learner should be like, I can relate with point 1 also, and point 2 and point 3. Getting them to spend time and reflect on the scenario is what we want, right? We want to help them engage and think and see what consequences follow for that particular option. And if you don't know what are the common mistakes people do in that particular scenario, or what are some of the possible options, good options, the best option, always talk with your audience, know your target audience, talk with your stakeholders and your SMEs, so that you can come up with actual meaningful distractors that most of the people might answer the scenario with, right? And then you later show them the consequence and see how that applies to their choice. And basically it boils down to give them a good enough reason to choose a choice, right? Help them to see the nuances and the variation of the distractors. Make them more appealing, but that does not mean you trick the learner. Don't try to create confidence in one distractor, and when the learner chooses it, it's like, oh my goodness, I just feel cheated. This was not how it was supposed to be. So don't include trick questions, because later on, as the course progresses, the learner will lose faith in you and that's not what you want. You want to give them a good space where they can understand distractor, see where they come from, and this first critical step of writing good choices will help you in the other 3 steps of creating meaningful consequences, connections, and corrections. And this was a very long video, but this is something that I learned. And another thing that I do with scenarios is I'll just go up to random people and be like, what do you think of this choice? If you got this question, would you choose this distractor? Why or why not? And when you show it to totally random people and they are not able to figure out the best answer, then there you have created a great scenario choice bank. So yeah, I think that's enough for today. I will see you tomorrow with the second part, consequences of writing better scenarios for meaningful consequences. So I'll see you tomorrow. Bye.